Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 39th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to check out nested loops. Nested loops are loops within loops, and instead of talking about nested loops and trying to explain to you what nested loops are, I'm going to demonstrate them to you in a C program, and that will clear things for good, right? So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to print this pattern through a C program, and it's pretty simple. On line 1 you have one asterisk symbol, on the second line you have two asterisk symbols, on line 3 you have 3, on line 4 you have 4, and on the fifth line you have 5 asterisk symbols. So you can probably find a relationship between the various lines, that on line 1, on row 1, that is, you have one asterisk symbol, on row 2 you have 2, on row 3 you have 3. So there is a relationship, right? And we're going to try to do this using nested loops, and it's going to be pretty interesting. So let's get started. As you can see, using code blocks, I've saved a file. I've given it the name nested_loop.c, and on line 1 in this file I have my header file, on line 2 I have the main function, on lines 3 and 4 I have curly braces. And this is a classic programming example. A lot of places where I have been to for interviews, and even the exams that I've written for different programming languages, I've seen this problem being asked a lot. So if you're a university student, or if you're preparing for an interview or something, then please pay attention here, because nested loops can help you do some really complicated stuff. So it's really nice if you get a hang of them initially. So what we're going to do is we have to declare two integers first, and I'm going to call my integers I and j, right? And I'll put a semicolon to terminate this, and we're going to use two for loops. And for the first for loop, I'll type in the keyword for, and then within parentheses I'm going to use I as the outer variable and j as the inner variable. That is, for the outer for loop I'm going to have I as the control variable, and for the inner for loop I'm going to have j as the control variable. So I'll have to type in I here, and I'll give it the value 1, right? And since we want 5 rows in the pattern that we are printing, I'll have to make sure that the outer for loop runs 5 times, right? So to do that, since I've given I an initial value 1, I would have to have the test condition I is less than equal to 5, right? And I would also have to increment I in steps of 1, right? Because since I want the loop to run 5 times, and since the initial value of I is 1 and the final value of I is 5, I would want to increment I by 1 through each iteration. So to do that, I'll have to type in I++, and that's it. That's all I have to do for the outer loop. And for the inner loop, of course, it's going to be within the body of the outer for loop. So you have to first get in your pair of curly braces, and between this pair you type in for again, and this time we're going to use j as the control variable, and I'll give the value 1 to j initially. And since there is a relationship between the asterisks that are being printed and the row number, we are going to have our test condition for the inner loop as j is less than equal to I, right? So j is going to control how many times the asterisk symbol gets printed on each row, and I is going to control how many times we're going to have rows in the pattern, right? So I hope this is making sense to you. So the test condition is going to be j is less than equal to I, and if you haven't understood this, don't worry. When I execute the program and when we see the output, I'm going to come back to the code again, and I'm going to clear things for good. So the update statement is also going to be j++, so we're going to update j in steps of 1, 2, and then within the body of the inner for loop we are going to have a printf statement that's going to print the pattern. And it's going to be very simple. Within double quotes you're just going to type in the asterisk symbol once, right? And you put in a semicolon to terminate this, and outside the body of the inner for loop you're going to have another printf statement. This one is going to make sure that each time this loop executes, or each time you get to this loop, you get to this loop on a new line, right? So you have to put in the new line escape sequence between the double quotation marks here, put a semicolon to terminate this. I'll save the file, and I'll click on build and run, and you see that in the output window we get the output that we need. We see one asterisk symbol on the first line, 2 on the second, 3 on the third. so on and so forth. Now let's get back to the code and let's try to understand what we've done. So as I said, the outer for loop is going to control how many rows we have in the program, right? So um, I has initial value 1 and it has a final value 5, so it's going to run 5 times, so that's why you're going to have 5 rows. And if I change the value of 5 of I, the final value of 5 from 5 to 10, if I save the file and click on build and run, then you would see that there are 10 rows in the pattern that we have. But since we want just 5, I'm going to change the value of I back to 5. So I hope this much is clear to you, that we're using the outer loop to have a fixed number of rows in our pattern. The inner loop is going to control how many times the asterisk symbol gets printed on each row in the pattern. So since we want just one asterisk symbol to be printed on the first line, we have initialized j with 1, right? And since there is a relationship between the number of times the asterisk symbol gets printed to the row index, we have this test condition that j is less than or equal to I. So let's say that for the first iteration, well, we don't have to assume it, it is obvious that for the first iteration I is 1 and j would run just once, because this test condition would evaluate to true just once, right? Because when the value of j would be updated to 2, this condition would fail. For the next outer loop iteration, the value of I would be 2. So this loop would run twice, because the value of j would be 1 for the first iteration, and for the second iteration it would be 2, and this test condition would value it to true, and so on and so forth. And finally, the logic behind having the printf statement and the new line escape sequence outside the body of the inner for loop is that you want the printf statement or the new line escape sequence to be executed after the pattern has been printed for each row. So after let me execute the program again, and we try to understand. So after this asterisk symbol has been printed, you want the new line escape sequence to be executed. So that's why you have the the second printf statement outside the inner for loop. So anyway, this is all I wanted to discuss in this tutorial. I hope you guys had fun watching this, and please subscribe to my channel in case you haven't already. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial, in which we'll discuss something interesting again. And thank you so much for watching this one, and bye bye.